Sometimes, some years, you have a garden that doesn't do well. And this is especially true and tragic for large farmers when they lose a whole crop. And, you know, I don't have to tell you about this. I could just skip over it and not say anything, but there's always a way to reclaim your work and your effort. Now, here is the evening primrose, and isn't it beautiful? Isn't that just beautiful? It's tall. It's almost 3 feet tall. Beautiful. And here is my patio. Now the landlord landscapers came through, took one look at it, and said, we're not bothering. I have all thyme on the bottom here, so I have to bother if they're not going to. But this is how bittersweet can ruin a property very quickly. You see how thick those vines are, and they have killed just about everything here. And there was, I think it's a black raspberry bush that popped up out of nowhere, probably from a bird dropping. And unfortunately, when they cut the grass, they just ran over the vines or the branches it's sending out. In other words, here are the bittersweet berries. And the birds do eat them in the winter, but this is a mess. And this is because they haven't come through and trimmed anything. So there's a forsythia under here that is getting buried and killed. Right there, all those dead branches. And we have bittersweet overrunning, and you see what happens is they entangle, they wrap around each other, and it becomes impossible to get rid of. The other problem with bittersweet is that when, like if I cut that big branch, it's going to send out 5 or 6 little new shoots. So this is how it has killed one of the main trees in the backyard that has like a 6-inch diameter root. All of that vine you see going from tree to tree, the squirrels use that. It's like Swiss Family Robinson. The squirrels run through the trees. The branches, the vines also go this way. But the actual trees are being killed. In fact, I don't know if you can see through the leaves right in front. There is a whole twisted mess of vines that are wrapped around these trees. The animals benefit because they don't have to jump from tree to tree, but the trees died. So this is how you ruin a property. And I don't own it, so but you can see it's reaching up to the clothesline. There is a rose bush there, and that's another, I have to identify it. There's another wild bush of some kind to the left of it. But this is how you ruin a property. So anyway, in addition, the garden is not doing well. Now, the variety of pumpkin I'm growing, these are my own seeds from the pumpkin I grew last year. And what they're not doing is branching out very much. This one plant is probably the only one that's going to survive. And they have some kind of wilt or something. So I would imagine that the farmers, if they do use their own seeds, can only do so maybe one season, and maybe these needed extra fertilizer or extra pesticide or fungicide or something. And frankly, this little bitty garden this year is supposed to be for trees anyway, for me. And because I had the pumpkin seeds, I was still growing the pumpkins. The chives is doing fine. I've allowed this little ground cover because it never gets any taller than an inch, and the roots don't go deep. It's a surface like a carpet. It doesn't really hurt anything. So this is depressing. When I had 6 pumpkin plants, I'm down to 3. That one looks like it's wilting. This one is just not getting very big. But the advantage of the evening primrose, this is how you can work with what you have. What I think I'm going to do, instead of putting the trees in here, I am going to take my 2 forsythias, and forsythias don't do all that great in pots. On the right, you see one that, even though it's dry, is retaining its moisture. And on the left, if you don't water it, it's going to wilt quickly. They were both watered the same time. The last time I watered them, one is not taking it as well as the other one. So these 2 are going to go right where I put them. And they're going to, first of all, replace the forsythia on the left that the bittersweet has killed. There's no way I can get all the bittersweet out of there. They are going to be yellow, like the evening primrose. I can remove the rocks, or I can leave them there. But I'm going to put the 2 forsythias right here, and we are going to have a privacy screen of evening primrose and forsythia in the yard. So as long as I'm here, once those get in there, they'll probably take off quite a bit. Once I plant them, we're going to have about, those are only about 2 feet tall, but by next year they'll be at least 3 feet tall. And that is going to start a yellow privacy screen that is going to make the patio private. Now, to extend that, if I were going to stay directly in line with the clothesline, I could put 3 or 4 more forsythias there, and we would have either a square or a curve that makes the patio private. So that's something you can do in a yard. This is a duplex, and they won't put up more fencing. And my neighbors have not, that's all wild. They have not done any gardening this year. But if you just want to have a sense of your own space when you're sharing a large yard with another apartment or house, this would be the way to use bushes. And forsythias are fairly inexpensive. They're fast growing, easy care. They're beautiful. They bloom yellow before the leaves come out, if I remember correctly. I think so. But from the clothesline to where I have the garden, I could put like 3 forsythias there, and then these 2 are going to be about probably 2 feet apart to give them some space. And so when I leave, the landlord is going to look at this and say, okay, that's attractive and that's a benefit for privacy. And they're probably not going to rip it out. If I put a white oak in the middle or plant the cherry tree in the middle, I already know that when I leave, they're going to cut it down. Simply because they're not going to want a tree with big heavy roots interrupting the septic system. And that may be why the garden is not doing very well. So what I'm probably going to do is change the rocks to go around the plants I have and make each one an individual planting with the rocks around it, take the fence down, and let the grass come back over here, and put the 2 forsythias there. And I will gain not only this privacy screen, but I will gain back about 3 feet of lawn, which with the dog is a good thing. Anything I want to keep in the containers, I can move as borders. I can use them as little dividers. So when this is August, not the best time really to be planting new trees or bushes, but you can do it on a cool day and keep them very watered. And when you have a disappointment in a garden, you can just reshape your yard. You don't have to leave an empty, bare dirt square that you look at every day and say, how depressing is that? You can change it, arrange it. Containers help. If I want to really protect that pumpkin, I could put containers around it if you don't have rocks. I have a lot of rocks. And I'll get back some natural lawn, but I will also gain yellow. So this will be yellow. And when I take that bittersweet off the patio, the reason I need the patio is because I have a hibachi. We're not supposed to have open fire grills or anything like that. But I have a hibachi, and I know we get hurricanes, we get blizzards. I need that patio clear because in the winter or any time of year, I need at least a 6-foot square of cement that is to put a hibachi on to contain a fire. And so you have to think of that too. This is all tinder. If we have a drought, boom, it can go up. I've got neighbors down the street, and even last night, my neighbors on the left, I don't know where these people got the idea that it's great to be sending off fireworks that don't go anywhere. They go up about 20 feet, and then they come down in your neighbor's yard. And if everybody starts doing that, you have to think of fire, even though it looks so lush and green. So that's where the garden went for 2021, and it's a good thing that I'm not depending on the garden for food. I don't know, a friend of mine brought me summer squash and tomatoes and all kinds of things that she's growing in a community garden, but she started with plants and not seeds, and all she's been doing, it's all organic where they are, and it's kind of like everybody has a plot, so if something starts to go wrong with her plot, the next person might catch it before it happens. I don't know. I've been paying attention to this. I think that this is part of why I specialize in ornamental horticulture and not growing vegetables. My brother can grow vegetables and food like there's no tomorrow. And sometimes you just have a natural affinity for one type of plant over another. But it's a good thing I'm not depending on this for food. I would have had to make it much bigger if I were. So let's look forward to yellow.